everybody, it's Christina of CraftyPaws. I'm here to share with you guys this super cute thank you card for our everyday heroes, our doctors and nurses, and other folks who are working on the front line. This is a freebie digital stamp from MFT Stamps drawn by Bertie Brown, and this one I believe is called Doctor's Orders. And I just wanted to highlight this adorable digi and share with you guys what I did to kind of tweak it a little bit. I wanted to emphasize the real importance of PPE, personal protective equipment. And so when I downloaded the image, I converted it to a JPEG so that I could digitally kind of remove the nose and mouth and then doodle on the mask, as you can see here. And now I'm just going to show you guys the step-by-step coloring process that I went to. Oh, and by the way, I use a Copic multiliner pen to do the doodling so that it doesn't fight with the alcohol inks that I'm going to use to color up the image. It won't bleed as much. The ink, unfortunately, from my printer does bleed a little bit or get moved around a little bit with alcohol markers, but I'm hopefully going to show you how I deal with that. You can see a little smudge kind of in the middle of the doctor's face here as I'm coloring up the skin tones. And I'm using a pretty typical skin tone color combination that I use often. It's E50, 51, and then R20 for the blush, and then I'm going to add a little bit of shadowing with an E01. When this dries, the E01 blends so much into the E50 and 51 that I end up adding some intensity of color with color pencils later. Now I'm going to color up the white lab coat. Now doctors, I believe, have the long white coats, so this digi is a doctor, and she's a girl, in my opinion, since she has the longer hair. And I'm going to just use some cool gray tones to color up the white lab coat. I didn't want to leave it just the white of the cardstock. Obviously, I wanted to add some dimension and kind of a feeling of texture and weight to the doctor's coat. And I'm blending it out here with the lightest C00. I'm using the same colors to color up the mask. I was wondering if I should add blue to the masks, but I believe medical masks are white. Their gloves are often blue or sometimes green, I think, and sometimes white, but I decided to do blue just to add a little color. And here you see me coloring up her hair. I'm going to make her kind of an ashy blonde. Or brown-haired girl. I started off thinking blonde, and then I went with brown hair. And you can see here's where I'm putting in the darkest shadows with an E59. The lightest color was an E55, and now I'm just flicking with my marker so that I get some hair texture. My pens are really like rich with ink, so you'll see that I'm not getting the thinnest flicking, and I'm going to add some detail later on with some color pencils that I'll show you how I do that as well. But now I'm just blending the 55 to the 59 with the E57, and I'm just adding more flicking motions here to get as much hair texture as possible while maintaining that highlighted area as well. Now I'm going back in to re-emphasize that lightest warm kind of mustardy color to the hair to add to the brightness of the highlight. And I'm going back in and with the darkest E59, re-emphasizing those darkest shadowed areas behind the ear, behind the neck, under the chin, at the tips of the kind of bangs, behind the ears again, and at the crown where her part is. So the dark areas are re-emphasized. And now for shoes, I'm just going to keep it really simple. Some neutral grays, N5 and N7, to add a little bit of shadowing here underneath the cuff of her pants or her scrubs, and along the sides to get a little bit of shadowing. And then at the bottom of the shoe, I'm using a C0 so that the bottom soles, the rubber soles, perhaps of the shoes, are kept a lighter color. Now for the clipboard that she's holding onto, I thought I would add a wood tone, so I'm using E23. And then I wondered, should I add a little shadowed areas kind of behind her arm, by her hand? And I was going to keep the paper area white, and then I realized for HIPAA reasons, confidentiality, I decided to make this the back of the clipboard. So I'm just going to add a darker kind of kind of a clay color, I think that is, an E44 and an E47 to add a little bit of shadowing to that middle area as well. So it's kind of a two-toned wooden looking clipboard. Now I'm going to show you guys adding a little bit of extra detail. I wanted to add a deeper shadow, so I'm using some Prismacolor color pencils. And if you're interested in the particular colors that I use, I'm going to list them all in my blog post, which I'll link to in the description box below. This color I thought would add a nice rosier complexion, especially along the top where her hair probably casts a shadow on her face, along the edges of her face, where it might be more shadowed if the light is coming straight on to her face, underneath her bangs. I'm going in even darker with this kind of a rosy color to add even more shadow. And then I'm blending out with, I believe this is a beige color. And like I said, all the colors, I'm just kind of playing with this. I've never really played so much with skin tone colors as I have here. And I just really liked how that added a lot of detail. So I decided to add more detail and kind of better blending for her scrubs as well. So I'm taking a blue and I'm kind of blending from the darker areas to the brighter areas of her top and her pants, just so that I can add a kind of a richness. This is a lighter kind of a sky pale blue, and that gives me a nicely blended skin highlighted area of her scrubs. And then I'm going to go back in with a darker blue, again, just to kind of blend out and add a little bit of texture to the fabric, which I think the color pencils do beautifully. And again, adding a little highlight there. Color pencils also, if you sharpen them well, add real fine details that I seem to not be able to get with Copic markers because they kind of, the ink bleeds through the paper faster. So with the color pencils, I have a lot more control to get these really small area details. I decided I was going to give her brown hair kind of a deeper, richer, deeper brown. So I'm going in with a really dark, I believe this is like a warm gray. But like I said, all the colors are listed in my blog post. And I'm just adding those tiny, tiny flicks to the ends of her bangs, to where her part is, where the hair tucks behind her ear and under her chin, kind of the underside of her hair. And I think that adds a really nice added richness to her brown hair. That full range of really light to super dark, that full range of tones really helps pop the hair and the kind of three-dimensionality of it. And I decided I was going to take this kind of yellow color and re-emphasize the highlights in her hair and really make that pop as well. And I think that adds texture and color intensity and detail that I just simply can't seem to get with markers only. Now I'm using a Memento Tuxedo Black ink to ink the edges after I've fussy cut with my Fiskars spring-loaded scissors that you see there in the background, and that just gives a nice finished look to the fussy cut piece. And now I'm taking some sentiments. This is from the Newton's Nook Thankful Thoughts stamp set, and I'm deciding just to kind of do a rainbow of sentiments for the background. So many thanks. I'm stamping out in Tim Holtz Distress ink in Festive Berries. And I know the Distress inks don't give as clean a stamped sentiment, but I really don't like staining my stamps, and Distress inks wash right off with water. So that's why I'm doing this. Unfortunately, you can see there that my paper slipped in my Misty. So it's the orange section in particular kind of got smeared and kind of double stamped, but I'm going to show you how I fix that later. The next row, so the orange was spiced marmalade and the yellow here is mustard seed. And each one of these takes a couple of stampings because this ink, like I said, isn't really intended for sentiments, but you know, if you have the inks in all the colors like I do in Distress inks, but I don't necessarily in other inks, it's okay to use them for sentiments, especially if you have a stamping tool like the Misties where you can doubles or triple stamp if necessary to get a cleaner, brighter, intensity to the colored stamping. I'm just taking off each row as I go along. And now for the green there, I use Twisted Citron, and for the blue, I'm using Broken China. And I think that created a nice rainbow effect. Oh, and the purple is Wilted Violet. And I use a couple of these sentiments a couple of times, but I think it creates a really nice background. And here you can see how I basically fix the double kind of stamping that I did there. I'm taking a matching Tim Holtz Distress marker in the same colors, and I'm just showing you on the orange part that was the worst stamping. And I just go over it really simply with this marker. And I also do it off camera on the blue section and a little bit on the yellow section, just so that I can have the same kind of saturation in the sentiment, because the orange definitely comes out looking darker. That's why I picked the orange card base for the base of the card. And now I'm just popping up the image with some double-sided foam adhesive. This is a relatively simple card. It's probably not going to be kept. So I just wanted to, kind of put some attention on the focal image. And that's the finished card. I think it came out really cute. I hope the doctor that receives this card enjoys it and knows how much we all appreciate all the hard work that the frontline essential workers are doing right now during this pandemic. I'm so, so thankful and grateful to them. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. If you enjoyed this process video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful crafty day. Bye.